So today we're going to talk about the three-step process to getting rid of yeast. And this question comes from somebody in the Facebook, and I thought that I would do a Facebook Live on it. For those of you who are new, who are not familiar with me or what I do, my name is Dr. Evan Hirsch. I'm a functional medicine MD, and I specialize in helping people resolve their chronic fatigue. And I'm on a mission to help 100,000 people do so. And I'm doing that through a tiered-based model where basically this Facebook group is free. You can buy the book for $5 on Kindle or $18 as a paperback. I'm creating online courses that are going to be coming out soon. And then, of course, you can always work with me one-on-one. So let's jump in here. So the three things that you need to do in order to get rid of yeast is, number one, you have to push it out. Number two, you have to starve it. And number three, you have to kill it. So let's talk about how you do this. So number one is pushing it out. And so we want to do that by introducing better probiotics or better yeast and bacteria in the gut that can push the yeast out. So we want some more natural and better probiotics present. So that's introducing a probiotic that is, sometimes that's using the only yeast that is a probiotic is Saccharomyces boulardii, which I used to use a lot for this process, but there is some research coming out indicating that Saccharomyces might be pathogenic or pathologic in some people, which means it might be disease-causing. And so I have been staying away from that and just trying to supersize the good bugs. So number one is push it out. Number two is starve. So you want to starve the yeast. So this means doing an antifungal diet. So this diet is low in sugar, low in grains. This is meat and veggies. So this is a paleo or even a ketogenic diet. And then there's some other nuances to it. So, in terms of the sugars, the only type of sugar that you should be using is stevia. And we've had this conversation in the group as well. Fermented foods are not recommended on this diet because vinegar feeds yeast. And so anything that's fermented has a natural byproduct of vinegar. And so we want to avoid those things. Fruit should only be consumed when consumed with protein. So when you're combining it with protein and fat, it binds it up and it releases that sugar a bit more slowly because this is all because sugar feeds yeast. Carbs, when they're broken down into simple sugars, feed yeast. And people will notice this, like, when I eat sugars, I can tell that, I get itchier. I get itchy ears, I get itchy anus, I get itchy skin, I get brain fog. Sometimes I feel like I'm drunk. All of those are signs of yeast. So we talked about pushing it out with probiotics. We talked about starving it with an antifungal diet. And then we want to kill it. And there's several antimicrobials that I like to use. My favorite is, of course, by Byron White Formulas, because I just love those formulas. And it's called Afung, so AFNG. And once again, I'll start with it topically on the hands every night, every other night, increasing it slowly, switching over to oral, getting up to 10, maybe 20 drops 1 to 2 times a day, depending on the person, depending on what else is going on. Sometimes introducing biofilm disruptors as well. So a lot of infections, including yeast, can hide in biofilm, which is this collagenous material that bugs hide in and swap their DNA with each other. So you can break up this biofilm by using things like nattokinase or serrapeptase, by using EDTA and other, which binds to heavy metals, as well as other enzymes. So anything that's going to pull out heavy metals, there's a big component of heavy metals found in biofilm. So this is, as an interesting aside, when I start getting rid of heavy metals out of somebody, or we start introducing Detox 2 or some sort of binder that can pull out heavy metals, sometimes people will start to have reactions to certain infections, and that's because you're breaking up the biofilm, and then the bugs come out, and then you treat the bugs, and they're just becoming more obvious as you unearth them. So that is the three-step process. And then so the question is also, how does this differ from mold treatment? So with mold, it's a bit different because you also want to bind when we're we're using Detox 2 or some sort of binder to bind up the mold, and then get it out of the body with glutathione, which is the body's main detoxifier and is just so incredibly helpful for getting a lot of that stuff out of the body. And then, in terms of the introduction of using something like Afung, or, there's other products that you can find on the Full Script store, which is like Yeast formula or Phytostan, that's Phytostan, by, I think it's Integrative Therapeutics. Those are great formulas. Grapefruit seed extract can be really helpful, but mainly the yeast formula and the Phytostan, 2 capsules 3 times a day, can be incredibly helpful for getting rid of the yeast if you don't have access to the Byron White formulas. But when you're working with molds, you really want to hold off until later before you start introducing these antifungals. And the reason why is because oftentimes it can kick up the mold, it can make things harder and worse for somebody. So you have to decrease the volume of the mold first by using binders and glutathione before you start doing the antifungal treatment. So I hope that was helpful for you. That is the 3 things that you need to do in order to get rid of yeast, and then a little bit on mold, a little bit on biofilm. Hope that was helpful. If this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up. If you have a question about it, please leave it in the comment. Share it. Subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, because I love that positive feedback. When you guys comment on these things, it just makes me want to do more and more and more and more education for you. So thanks so much for being with us, and may every day, may your energy continue to get better and better. Thanks for watching.